right, I will call the Plan Commission meeting to order at 4 PM. At this time, I would entertain Chairman Carl Hosdall to come to the podium to appoint a Plan Commission chair.
I'm going to wait for their suggestions, so.
All right, does anybody have a suggestion for a chair first?
I'll nominate Tim Rippon.
I'll second it.
It's just nominations,
Okay, I'm
so
sorry.
it's not really seconds, and it's not nominations, it's just suggestions. So does anybody else have anybody else that wants to be? All right.
Do we need a
Tim?
motion to vote on it?
No,
No, that-
Chairman?
The board, next board meeting will recommend Tim for the board. Board has a vote.
all right, so for today, then I'll take that motion for a interim chair,
Sorry, Tim.
With a second.
okay? So we got Vito making the motion, is that my understanding? And we've got a second by Paul. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion is passed. Tim Ruppin will be the interim chair, and at the next board meeting, we will appoint for a chair. Yep, so Tim will take over from you.
So I start with number one, call to order, or just go from number two, three, the roll call?
Start with number 2, roll call.
Three.
Thank you.
Three.
Number three.
Okay,
Sorry.
roll call to my left here,
Giardino here.
Dalton here.
Capel here.
Reppin here.
Janzak here. Hepner here.
And I did get an email from Jerry Weisinger saying that he would not be in attendance for the meeting tonight.
All right, so number 4, certifying the posting of the meeting.
I certify that on Thursday, June 5th, 2025, the agenda for the Town of Rome Plan Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 was posted at the following locations: Rome Town Hall, 8:18 a.m., Quick Trip LLC, 8:26 a.m., Nakusa Port Edward State Bank, 8:31 a.m., posted on the Town of Rome website on June 5th, and the legal notice was published in the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune on May 27th and June 3rd, 2025.
Great. All right, then we move to number 5, approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Number 6, citizen comments. During the citizen comment period of the agenda, the Plan Commission welcomes comments from any town resident, not a member of the commission, on any item on the agenda. Please know that pursuant to state law, the commission cannot engage in conversation with you, but may ask questions. The commission may refer to the item to staff, a standing committee, or a future Plan Commission agenda for discussion and action. Each person wishing to speak will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to submit a card to the chair, providing their name, address, and topic for discussion. We got any?
There were no citizen comments
Okay,
received.
all right.
And just so everyone is aware, this is Jeremy Peach, our interim zoning administrator. He's joined us today virtually.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Oh, and of course the volume's quiet.
Okay, we'll move to number 7, informational updates, recent correspondence, current events, announcements. Anybody?
I have nothing.
Nothing? All right. We'll move to number 8, open public hearing. Number A, consideration of a preliminary plat for Alpine Estates, first edition, on 40 acres owned by T&S Land Investments, to be located on 2 separate parcels totaling 40 acres, described as follows: being all of Lot 18 and 19 of Alpine Estates, located in part of the southwest quarter, southeast quarter of Section 7, Township 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin.
All right, and then Jeremy has a couple things to add for the preliminary plat. But it is a residential subdivision adjacent to the existing Alpine Estates plat. The proposed plat would be named Alpine Estates First Edition, and a more detailed review memo was provided by Jeremy in the meeting packet.
Can we, yeah,
We need to
him
turn up your volume, Jeremy, 1 second.
I changed it to the computer. All right, try talking again now.
You got me now, louder?
It
No.
says it's on the Samsung, but I'm not sure why it's not playing the volume. Okay, now try.
Got me now, louder?
Nope, I'm not sure. It says it's on Samsung, so
Sounded like it was.
try now.
Got me now.
Nope, it's only coming through the computer, not the TV.
There's no sound bar on there, is there?
No, it usually just plays with the volume.
No, it didn't help.
Can they hear me at all?
Let's see, if I put him any closer to you guys, can you hear him?
Might have to put a microphone by the computer like we did at State Lakes.
Oh, yeah, that'll work, yeah.
What would I do without you?
Don't they have a second
All right, let's try that.
Any better?
It's gonna be, need to be pretty close to the speaker.
Put it right on the computer.
That's what I'm gonna try. Okay, now try.
Got me any better?
Not really.
I know last time I could see you guys on the TV and I can't see you this time either.
It's a little louder. How about,
Any better?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
it's a
little
little
better.
better, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you can hear me, I guess the only things I was going to add, obviously I prepared a memo for you, giving a little background on this preliminary plat application. This is a plat that's going to create 19 lots adjacent to the previous first edition. Well, I'm sorry, the first part of the Alpine Estates. This is the first edition. And I think the only concern or question we had in reviewing this and putting this on the agenda was the zoning. Right now, it's currently zoned outdoor recreation, forest and outdoor recreation, and it needs to be rezoned to R1. Well, apparently that was done for when the first plat was approved. Both these 240 acres were rezoned to R1. We do need to find that in writing so that we can update the zoning map appropriately. But other than that, this is a pretty straightforward plat. Lots are being created that meet your zoning requirements. Appears to be an acceptable plat, and it is recommended for approval with a few exceptions. Basically, just obtaining all county and town final approvals for the final plat. Glad to answer any questions if you need to.
You're saying that we haven't found the change in the ordinance to make this for R1?
Not in paper format. We've heard it from the surveyor that's performed the plats. Obviously, there was an approval of the first plat, and that was a final approval, and contingent on that final approval being approved by both the county and the town was that zoning change had to be made. So we have a strong assumption that it's completed and is done. We just need to find that paperwork. And if not, this approval would be contingent on that zoning change being formalized.
yeah, I pulled both of the property folders because there were about 20 folders, and then when they were combined, there's nothing in the two parcels that you're discussing today that showed anything about that. So I don't know if when it got subdivided and into all those other parcels, it's in those folders, or it should have been, but I couldn't find anything. And the zoning map still says forest and outdoor recreation, so it was never updated with the county either.
I see a problem with that.
Well, it's most certainly an issue, but I think to your point, the plat is acceptable contingent on that zoning change being made formal.
Yeah, as long as there's
Which
a contingency on
we're-
it, yeah.
Yeah,
As
and
long
we're
as there's a
assuming it's
contingency.
done. Again, we got some searching to do because obviously these parcels have been subdivided up and that paperwork may be in a different folder, so we just have a little work to do to find that document.
And since this is a preliminary plat, it'll come back a second time. We can
Correct.
reassure ourselves at that point in time that the
Back.
rezoning has taken place.
Okay.
You could always make it a condition of the findings of fact as well.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll close the public hearing then on that.
Nope. Should
Nope.
ask if there's any comments
Any comments on that? Sorry,
from either the
to the,
party or from the public.
from the public? Any comments from the public?
Okay, then you can close it.
Okay, then I'm going to recommend closing it.
Is there anybody here from Alpine Estates? You want to come up?
You want to say anything? No?
I guess not, I mean, if it's.
It's a preliminary.
Just
Yeah.
the paperwork correct, I think we
Right.
as far as what we're going to do.
Because no one's had any questions for him?
Any questions? No? All right, then I'm gonna close the public hearing on that.
Okay.
All right. All right, I'm gonna move to number 9. Oop, discuss,
I do
sorry.
have a point. Whose responsibility is it to determine and complete the paperwork prior to the preliminary? Or to get preliminary approval or final approval?
Which paperwork?
The zoning, the
The zoning.
rezoning.
So the rezoning, we just have to figure out if it's in a property folder where it was created at some point.
Okay.
Back in 2022, before either of our times, and we tried looking
All
for
right.
it, we couldn't find it.
Okay.
But
So it's,
between
you'll
Jeremy and
continue,
I- Yep,
and if not, it has to be reapproved?
yes.
Okay.
But if it was, it'll come back with you with the final, because there's the preliminary, has to go to the town board, then the final plat has to come here, and then go to the town board again.
And then to the county?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, then I'm gonna close the public hearing on that. All right, number 9, discussion and possible action, approval of the meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval as written.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. All right, number 10. Discussion and possible action, issuance of conditional use permit for the following purpose. Purpose storage rental building at the property located at 232 14th Avenue, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 6265, located in the southwest corner of northwest corner, Section 07, Town 20 North, Range 06 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a partial number of 030-00623-0035.
The Plan Commission held a public hearing on a conditional use permit application for a storage rental building at 232 14th Avenue for REM LLC. Discussion and possible action item was overlooked and it did not make it onto the agenda, so we're just simply revisiting the application to properly approve the conditional use portion with discussion and action on the item. A review memo has been provided in your meeting packet as well.
Yeah, so any discussion on that?
And just keep in mind that there is a findings of fact with that one, and it does have a, time limit. It can be indefinite in the findings of fact, or you can place a time.
If I remember correctly, at the last town board meeting, is anybody here from, would you like
REM?
to step up, please? If I remember at the last board meeting, there was a condition mentioned at the meeting about a garbage dump, which was never mentioned, and it's here. I mean, it's not here.
That's the site plan. The conditional use never goes to town board. You approved at the town board the site plan of operation. This is for the conditional use. They're two separate things.
Oh.
Yeah, I think, Vito, I think what you may be referring to, I made a recommendation that, the town or the owner operator, all of the above should consider that maybe some dumpsters should be placed on the premises. It was not discussed. No, it was not.
Okay, so I was right then, it wasn't brought up. But I have a question to ask you on behalf of the owner. It's a storage building. Does she need a dumpster?
That may be something that is determined later on too. I think that's maybe why it wasn't hit on too hard, is the fact that she was really aiming to use that for, I'm not going to say personal use, but storage for her other business, and it didn't sound like this was going to be like a condo type private storage facility.
Do you have anything you want to say?
We weren't planning on.
Make sure, turn on the microphone, please.
So we weren't planning on having a dumpster, but if one was required, we would put one in, but we weren't planning on having a dumpster.
Yeah. I think the conditional use permit could read that should a dumpster be placed on the premises, a corral would be in order.
Fair enough?
Make it
Yeah.
make it a condition.
Okay, all right. Anything, anybody else? Possible action, what's, anything we should do here? Just,
You would have to vote on it to approve it.
okay. Hey, you guys ready to vote? Approve, vote for approval? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Any
think we
nays?
need to either include the
Need a
findings
motion.
of fact or not include the
Okay,
findings
sorry.
of fact.
Hey,
I'm getting
good
there.
intern right
Okay,
now.
no, this is how you learn. This is how you learn. And then whether or not we want to add the conditional use of,
Oh, yeah.
should a dumpster be on the premises, that
Okay.
the corral be added to enclose it. So I'm going to move that we approve the conditional use, including the findings of fact, with the condition, with the additional condition that should a dumpster be placed on the premises, that it be provided with a enclosure.
I'll second that.
Second that? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None, okay. All right, great. Move to number 11. Discussion and possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of preliminary plat for Alpine Estates, first edition on 40 acres owned by T&S Land Investments to be located on two separate parcels totaling 40 acres described as follows, being all of Lot 18 and 19 of Alpine Estates, located in part of the southwest corner of southeast corner of Section 7, Township 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. Any discussion?
I just have a question, just as I see it plotted, the second edition or the first edition to Alpine Estates, all the traffic will be coming off of 13th through the Alpine Estates into the addition. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
I thought it was coming off of Alpine.
It's coming off
It's coming off of 13th Avenue.
Oh, 13th Avenue, okay. All right.
Any other discussion?
Okay.
Looks good, then, yeah. All right. Then I ask for any recommendations to the town board. Any motion? Or is that
There's a finding of fact.
finding of
as well.
fact? Okay.
I'll move that we recommend the preliminary plat to the town board with the findings of fact.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we vote, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, great. Move forward to number 12. Discussion and possible action, comprehensive plan review, development of the outline for completion and public participation plans.
So I can tell you that this is on the next town board agenda. I did, at the last meeting, discuss with Robbie, our finance director, and it was not accounted for in the budget for this year still. They can look into it further, because obviously we have to change the comp plan. But I was also instructed to ask, or to look in to see if Lexi had created an RFP and she did not. So I did not find anything, any correspondence of her reaching out to anyone other than MSA.
And there was nothing in Lexi's budget for this comprehensive plan?
No. Her and Jason did not budget for it.
Do we go and ask for an RFP then?
It would be whoever could, if we created an RFP, then we would put it out to different companies. It would,
Probably think we should, shouldn't we, or
Well, she was saying she wanted to bring this to the town board. Why don't we just make a motion to
motion?
move it to the town board?
it is on the town board.
It's on their
It is,
agenda.
okay,
Okay,
all
then
right,
We'll await their
we'll just
decision
table this
and
to,
direction.
all right. So we're gonna table that. All right. Go on to number 13. Discussion and possible action, discussion of accessory structure size restriction within the town, Rome Town Center. So, any discussion?
So originally, this item had come to the Plan Commission. It was recommended to the town board. It was brought back to Plan Commission from town board, and you were, last meeting, I don't know which ones of you were here, only a couple of you, to come back with your decisions of, or recommendations on size restrictions.
I look back at that meeting before I came here, and I know there was talk about, maybe make sure the structure was kind of similar to the existing business in some kind of structure-wise, and then possibly a 24 by 24 would be a maximum size of 576 square feet, and we're thinking maybe a minimum of 12 feet. So you could have a 12 by 24 or a 24 by 24. That's what I got from the meeting, possibly. Because nobody really liked the idea of 50% of the existing building that's too big.
No.
So I don't know about you guys. I like the minimum of 12 feet and maximum of 24 feet, but that's up for discussion.
And whichever, 50% of the existing, whichever is smaller, is that what you're implying?
no, the 50% is, what they're saying is, you might have a big building over there, and now you're gonna have a store, well, I want to call it a storage, but a garage,
That's,
and it's gonna, so I agree with Tim, let's set a standard.
you could also have a small main building and then a huge,
Right, but I think that
Accessory.
24 is such the limitation.
Yeah, it'd be a maximum of 24 feet, no more than that. It's like it's having a two-car garage, 24 by 24.
and it only pertains to the town center.
Just for the
Is
town
it-
center,
do you
not,
wanna-
nobody else, no.
Does
other-
anyone, do we want to open up and see if there's any discussion on this?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think that.
Tom?
Yeah, that's 576 square feet, and to have a building that would be smaller than that as the primary building, I think would be doubtful.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, it's
So-
kind of small. Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Tom Gabriel, 1032 East Queensway. Yes, this has been talked about for several months now throughout the town. In the Rome Town Center, Alpine Village, whatever it's called, there was some areas that we were not allowed accessory structures at all. So we went from not being allowed accessory structures to all of a sudden being allowed accessory structures with no size restrictions. In the main commercial A section of the town center, I think that we should limit them. I like your idea to 24 by 24. What we don't want to end up with is huge garages up there. I mean, this is for businesses, but some of these businesses need to keep equipment for snow plowing their driveway, cutting their lawn, wheelbarrows, shovels, rakes, hedge clippers, you name it. But we don't want to create a storage facility up there on the flip side. Now, as we get further in the back of the place, those are different zonings. We can cover those areas later in life. But I guess, Tim, I think you're on the right track. When we talked about the 50% of the size of the original structure, it could end up being some pretty big garages. I feel that a 24 by 24 or, I mean, we're gonna run it in an area though, when you go 12 by 24, because there's a size restriction that you have to be 24 feet wide too. So that's the catch 22, in the 12 by 24 size, say a one-car garage, because I believe there's a town ordinance that says your structure has to be 24 feet wide too. So, but the 576, or if you just round it up to 600, whatever, you know, 20 by 30, but you can't build a 20 because you got to be 24 feet wide, so then it creates a little hiccup there. And people that say, well, we shouldn't have size restrictions, well, the town has a lot of things with size restrictions. If you want to put a shed next to your home, you can only be 150 square feet. So I do think that some type of size restriction, especially in commercial A, would be a wise decision from this plan commission.
Would, is he right about that, the 24, what he's saying? Okay, I want to, make sure, because he knows what he's, I want to make sure we know, we're on the same page here.
I gotta look.
Then you got your computer that you're checking on it?
I could be wrong, Bill, but I'm not.
Well, that's why I want to make sure, because if we make a motion, I want to make sure, if it's going to be a 24 max, that's it. I mean, if that's standard throughout the township, that's, I want to make sure.
Why, I think it's a 24, because I thought, Bill, we ran into this with the Foss Garden Center with the greenhouse. That was going to be a permanent structure. It was going to be 21 feet wide or 22 or something like that. That's where I'm drawing my memory from. When we were approving the additional greenhouses back then, they would be sort of permanent structures, but not permanent, and that's when we ran into the 24-foot measurement.
Well, what do you think?
Well, there's another thing I think we'd take into consideration is 12 foot. I mean, if it could be done, a smaller dimension is less obtrusive as well. So,
Yeah, but he did say it has to be 24 feet, even though, that 24 has to be there somewhere.
So 25 feet wide, but it could be 12 feet
Deep.
minimum,
Right.
is a minimum. Okay, could do that. And
And
then,
that's why I think Bill is looking that up right now. If it's going to be 24, then if we word it right with the motion, you got to make sure we're in compliance and say, okay, this is the standard in the township. We'll stay with the standard.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
I guess my question would be is, could it be changed for a secondary building on the property rather than the primary building, just as a question? That wouldn't have to be 24. I guess that would be my question. And what would be the process to change that if we did?
Taylor, are you looking at?
I'm trying, yeah.
okay,
I haven't logged into a computer that wasn't mine.
We're asking the $64 questions, I guess.
Well, she's looking that up. Is that something where Jeremy would be capable of writing up a correct description zoning-wise that could address those issues?
I think we could work hand in hand with the town attorney. That would probably be how we would write something up.
So the only thing that I can find in the Rome Town Center district is between buildings is a minimum of 20 feet. A building height is 35 feet, and accessory building height maximum is 24 feet.
So the height is
so
24.
the height,
But
yeah.
I don't think they have a minimum building width.
No, I would agree, Taylor. I didn't see anything buzzing through here either. It is a little complicated to read, though.
A little bit.
I was gonna say you also could set, your minimum little standard of 24 foot wide, and maybe even put a caveat in there that if someone had, or there was an appropriate reason to have something bigger or wider, they could seek it through a conditional use permit. I mean, if you want to open that door.
I think the question was, could we have something smaller if it wasn't necessary for a 24 by 24?
And maybe go both ways, you know, if
That's what I was
if you
thinking.
want something that ain't meeting the code, then you gotta
Like-
seek the conditional use permit and come before you guys.
Like if you have a minimum and then a maximum within length, whatever, yeah,
Yeah, but did you hear her say 24 feet high?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is.
Isn't that kind of high?
That's a maximum, wasn't it?
That's kind of high, don't you think, for like a storage or garage?
Well, and here's another point to that, Vito, is they also are requiring a 612 pitch roof, I believe, if I'm reading correctly here. So that's gonna gain a lot of height out of that structure. More than typical, you know.
So you got a pitch roof, okay. I mean, I don't want to see a skyscraper over
Yeah, I
there.
know,
That's
I agree.
That's yeah, that's
The
a,
max height for the building is 35, and max for an accessory is 24. It doesn't go into width for accessory buildings.
Then I tell you what, if we're in agreement, you want to just sit back and say, let the attorney draft something to what we're asking here? Because he would have to put it in legal terms to change the
Yeah,
ordinance.
maybe that's the correct way to address this item, is put something in front of you guys, then we could edit and alter and revise, you know,
I
et
would
cetera.
agree with that.
All right, that sounds
That
good.
sounds good,
That
yeah.
sounds good. So you want to put it on the next, would the next agenda be too soon?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Taylor, you
Taylor,
agree?
is that
I
okay?
think that would be good. We can reach out to Vinnie and then put it on the next agenda.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, then we'll move to number 14. Discussion and possible action, discussion of small-scale solar ordinances. Any discussion?
Jeremy, did you have more to add for the small scale solar?
No, I guess the only thing I was gonna say at the last meeting, we had public input that reminded us that maybe this was pretty heavily discussed and maybe some draft ordinance language was already prepared. I don't know, I didn't look into it. It's kind of been something before my time, so, but it sounds like some work's already been done on it, and it was recommended that we look for that and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
put that back in front of the plan commission.
I think that's a great idea if you look for that and bring it back to us. What do you think?
Or if you have something to say, the microphone's right there. Would you please stop talking in my ear?
Jeremy, I just looked up some stuff on that too before I came, and it's state statute 66.0401. It does limit local townships like us with restrictions. We cannot give too many restrictions on that, except for maybe what I found was like sound decibels, you know, height restrictions, safety concerns, stuff like that. I don't know if that's something that
Yeah, I've seen some similar small scale, like more like, you know, small commercial or residential solar ordinances, and I don't think it's a tough thing to tackle.
We
If
talked
that's
about-
if that's the intent here, if that's what we're really trying to address, is just the smaller scale stuff that's going on homes or businesses and small commercial operations.
Yeah, like typically, is that like square footage of panels?
I
From
wouldn't
your
say
view?
that. I would say things like if they are on the structure, the principal structure, they may be permitted by right, you know, and you could outline some standards or regulations there. I know some communities would like to see something before, like you guys, the plan commission, a conditional use permit process, if they were like freestanding, you know, if they were in the yard on poles or whatnot. I know that's been my experiences,
That
the
makes
difference
sense.
of
But-
whether or not
As Commissioner
Permit.
Compo said last time, over a certain size, that goes to the PSC, and this would just be what is under that.
Well, I have a question, Jeremy, maybe you might answer. Would these be put on a concrete pad?
if they were standalone.
we're talking about the solar, we're talking that right now, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, if they
Small
were standalone. most
right, it is residential, but would they be on a concrete pad?
It would be case to case, because some people can put them on their homes.
Well, on the homes on the roof, I'm talking about on the ground. On the ground, would it have to be a concrete pad?
Yeah, it would be a pier system or some sort of foundation footing or something.
And then we have to,
Um,
also bear in mind the setbacks and all this others that they have to fall into compliance with.
Yeah, and more so the reason why I think if you were to allow them or write an ordinance, I think if you're going to allow them to be standalone or freestanding, you'd want them to come before you, and that's where you guys could go through that with a fine tooth comb. And
What about the height?
there you go again. There's another factor that you'd want to make sure you're vetting out before you approve something like that. So if it's going on a roof of the home, I think that's something where most communities say go for it. That's encouraged. But if they're standing alone, that's when you want to get a little more involved and make sure your concerns of height or setbacks and is there glare going to be going onto the adjacent properties or those kinds of things. So again, I think just like the last two items, I think we could, or at least the last one, we could find some language or prepare something that is something to start with versus kicking around thin air here.
You wouldn't have to include freestanding, would you? I mean, we could leave that out if we kind of chose.
You could just say, hey, we don't want them.
I think you'd want to. I think
think
if you have a freestanding solar panel set of solar panels going in, that's the ones you want to see. We could care less about rooftop that somebody's
Right,
trying
but
to
we
heat
could
their
say
water
that we,
heater.
yeah, but we could say we don't want those and not include it.
Uh,
Just do
Well,
roof.
I don't know.
we have
if
to, we
can.
have to
I don't
watch
think
the
so.
state statutes, because we are limited in what we can.
Right, I don't think so.
Well,
Yeah, you may be right. Maybe that's something we bounce off the attorney because,
Yeah, I
know. think-
again, maybe that's why you require those to be a conditional use permit where you guys get to set conditions and go through that very, very closely.
Jeremy, I think if you start with that Wisconsin solar model that you gave us in our
Yeah.
packet last time, that's pretty, it looks like a pretty good basic way of going about it. And we could
Yeah.
just take it from there. You don't have to do a lot of work.
Hey, Taylor, how many requests have we had?
For solar panels?
None.
Okay.
Yeah, I,
But you didn't have a solar farm request either. That's the issue.
That's true,
Is-
too. That's
Should
not
we
bad.
have something so that you don't have to run like run around trying to prevent something that, because you don't have it.
Right.
Right,
This is being preemptive.
Yeah,
I
I'm not-
agree.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not against that, but I just wanted to ask how many we've had, just to get a feel.
Well, I have a question, Jeremy. Now, if we're gonna, let's just say, have these solar panels on the ground, okay, is the dump gonna be able to take anything that's broken, hail damage? I mean, you can't just take that, I mean, that's almost considered toxic, isn't it?
boy, those are good questions, and I guess I'm not an expert on them, but I would just probably lean to the side of someone's got to, I mean, you got to trust humans are going to do the right thing and dispose of things properly, but I don't know if that's something that I've seen involved with ordinances or whatnot.
I mean, it's different with Akron versus a individual homeowner. If something breaks, like I say, a tree branch falls on it, a hailstorm, whatever, now you got some broken panels. What are you gonna do with that stuff?
Yeah. No, good question and point, and maybe that's just something you guys post at your collection point is, and I don't know the legalities of that or whether something is actually harmful or hazardous. Those are things we'd have to look into if you wanted to set some rules or stipulations on that of disposing them.
So you wanna kick this down the road and see what the attorney
Yeah,
says?
what's, everybody in agreement, let's have the attorney kind of
Yes.
write up something and take a look at it.
Give us an outline to look
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
Hey, Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
if you're gonna sit back and give this to the attorney, are you kinda writing down some of the questions we have here?
Yes, sir. And I'll put something probably together preliminary for Vinny or the town attorney, so he kind of knows what we were talking about and what we're looking at, and yeah, some starting points for him.
Okay, I'm with it then.
All right, sounds good, guys, all right?
I'm with it.
All right. All right, then we'll move on to number 15. Next agenda items. Anybody would like to,
On the other page, they had some listing here. Oh, I had 2 pages. No,
Taylor, you know anything coming down the pike?
I know on the next plan commission, you will see the accessory size structure for sheds.
all right,
We have some language that Jeremy worked with the town attorney to propose to you guys, and then it would be possibly recommended to town board, as there was a customer from Saratoga that makes the sheds and wants to propose
Right.
upping the size requirements to 160 from the current 150. That language will be in here on the agenda next, and then we're continuing the accessory size and the RTC and small scale solar. And then whenever they come back after it goes to town board for the preliminary, you'll eventually see the final plat coming back as well.
sounds good. All right, then, move on to 16, next meeting date and time, Tuesday, July 8th, 2025 at 4 PM. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I could do that. I motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Hey, you did a good job for, first time there.
Excellent.